This is what a supercar should sound like.
No miserable V8s or puny little turbochargers. That is Ferrari's greatest hit.
Ferrari are so pleased with it, they've named it after the founder of the company. They call it the Enzo.
You've heard of Ferrari, the speed, the legend. But do you really know the man behind it all? Hidden deep in Maranello lies a part of Ferrari's legacy that was never meant to be uncovered.
Maranello is located in the province of Modena. Maranello, the birthplace of Ferrari.
For decades, certain rooms stayed locked, questions went unanswered, until now. What was Enzo Ferrari hiding? Why were parts of his factory off limits, even to his own team? This isn't just about fast cars. It's about a mind driven by obsession, precision, and secrets that rewrite everything we thought we knew. What they found will leave you speechless. Are you ready to uncover Ferrari's greatest mystery? Get ready and trust me, you'll never look at that prancing horse the same way again. The hidden heart of Ferrari. In the quiet town of Maranello, Italy, sits a compound that feels more like a high-security lab than a car factory.
Ferrari's headquarters here in Maranello, Italy.
This is where Ferrari first roared to life in 1947 under the careful watch of Enzo Ferrari. But this isn't just the birthplace of luxury cars. It's a fortress built on silence. Unlike other manufacturers that celebrate transparency, Ferrari keeps its inner world completely veiled. Public tours? Extremely limited. Media access? Rare. Most visitors are shown only specific zones, always under escort. No photos, no phones. Everything is monitored, every detail controlled.
I'm going inside. Will you be coming with me? Probably not, because no photos or videos are allowed, but afterwards I'll give you a full rundown.
What you're allowed to see is curated. What you're not? That's where the real story begins. The grounds stretch across more than 165,000 square meters, yet the real intrigue lingers in its oldest buildings. From the outside, they appear unremarkable. But behind those weathered walls are sealed chambers, private workshops, and archives even longtime staff don't have access to. Locals murmur about unusual activity. Night shifts report lights flickering in spaces that aren't marked on any company floor plan. Some loading bays don't show up on satellite imagery. Deliveries arrive at gates not listed on public records. And historical city maps don't match what stands today, suggesting that parts of this site may have been quietly built without documentation. There are rumors that entire sections were constructed without permits, never registered, and deliberately left off official layouts. Inside these zones, there are no names, just numbers. And behind each number lies a door only a few were ever meant to open. The vault no one talks about. Deep beneath Ferrari's factory lies a highly restricted zone known only by coded names, Room 47B, Delta 7. But this isn't a typical basement, it's something else entirely. Locked away for generations, this section has been kept off limits to nearly all personnel. Only a select few were ever granted access, each bound by dense legal contracts so complex that attorneys had to walk them through every clause. What's stored there isn't equipment. Many cabinets contain only documents, written in deliberately obscure language, designed less for clarity than concealment. Security goes far beyond standard measures. Before biometric access was common, Ferrari had already installed fingerprint scanners, motion sensors, and independent air monitors in rooms that didn't officially exist. These systems operate on an isolated power grid and are maintained by a separate, carefully vetted team. Even among factory staff, those who worked near these hidden corridors rarely talk. Bound by lifelong confidentiality, most remain silent. But in hushed, off-the-record conversations, some have described eerie details, looping hallways, machinery running where no work was scheduled, and fleeting glimpses of strange equipment behind quickly shut doors. Whatever's kept behind those numbered walls isn't about car design or testing. And while Ferrari is known for innovation on the racetrack,
A Ferrari. A Ferrari is a car, of course, but it's also an objet d'art, an object of desire. It is the perfect synthesis between the technological and the artistic.
the true mystery seems to lie in how obsessively it protected something inside its earliest foundations, something never meant for public eyes. Then came 2023. During what should have been a routine electrical upgrade in one of the original wings, workers uncovered a concealed space hidden behind a false wall. What they found stunned everyone. It wasn't forgotten inventory. It was an archive, meticulously preserved, intentionally hidden. And its contents didn't just rewrite company history. They hinted at why entire zones of the Maranello facility had been shrouded in silence for over 70 years. Whatever Enzo Ferrari was trying to protect, it wasn't just blueprints or business secrets. It may have been the foundation of a legacy deliberately kept in the D. A room time forgot. In the oldest part of Ferrari's Maranello headquarters, behind an unmarked door, lay a chamber long erased from memory. Known only through quiet whispers as the archive, it remained sealed for nearly 80 years until fate stepped in. During routine maintenance in late 2023, a team working on the building's old wiring accidentally broke through a hidden wall. What they found wasn't just surprising, it was beyond anything the automotive world had ever anticipated. The room itself was no ordinary storage space. It functioned like a sealed laboratory, air purified around the clock, conditions tightly controlled, and reinforced walls shielding its contents from both time and disaster. But its true importance wasn't in how it was built. It was in what it was built to protect. Enzo's hidden vision. What lay inside wasn't just a record of Ferrari's history, it was a revelation. Preserved with extraordinary care was a personal collection of Enzo Ferrari's experimental work, delving far beyond the realm of road vehicles. Instead of traditional car blueprints, the archive held complex theories on airflow, experimental equations, and futuristic sketches that looked more suited to aviation than the highway. This was no side project. Everything was categorized with precision: century-grade folders, glass-protected diagrams, and handwritten notes showing Enzo's involvement in every detail. Some documents dated back to the 1940s, decades ahead of their time. Most striking were the prototypes, dozens of custom models, shaped like jets and rockets, displayed on engineered shelves. Accompanied by technical data, they hinted at a secret ambition: breaking not just speed records, but the boundaries of Earth itself, beyond the racetrack. What the team uncovered that day went far beyond the world of motorsport. Ferrari's ambitions, it now seems, weren't just about dominating the racetrack. Enzo may have been quietly laying the groundwork for something much bigger, an advanced vision that stretched into scientific frontiers and unexplored technologies. The newly discovered archive paints a startling new picture. Enzo Ferrari was more than a brilliant car maker. He was a mind driven by curiosity that transcended mechanical limits. Inside the vault were rare textbooks on rocketry, detailed jet engine research, and personal letters exchanged with aerospace pioneers from around the globe. Some dated long before such knowledge became widespread. It's now easier to understand why certain areas of the Ferrari factory were strictly off-limits. Enzo wasn't simply designing fast cars, he was toying with the future of speed itself. His notes were filled with aerodynamic concepts and theoretical ideas far ahead of their time, many of which have since shaped not just car design, but principles seen in aviation and advanced engineering. This revelation forces us to rethink Ferrari's entire legacy. Was his success on the track just one piece of a greater plan? And could the true scope of his genius have been hidden in plain sight all along? The White Room and the depths below. Tucked inside Ferrari's main facility is a place few have seen and even fewer understand: the White Room. This pristine chamber, cleaned to surgical standards, isn't operated by robots, but by skilled hands. Every tool is examined under microscopes, and those allowed entry undergo strict decontamination. It's not just assembly, it's a ritual of precision. But what lies beneath is even more revealing. Accessible only through an unmarked elevator below the White Room is a hidden testing lab that redefines engineering. Here, Ferrari engines face simulations beyond the limits of Earth's roads. Wind tunnels mimicking 400 miles per hour speeds, pressure chambers recreating the edge of Earth's atmosphere, and environments fluctuating between extreme heat and deep cold. Shockingly, this isn't experimental, it's routine. Engines weren't tested for racing, they were tested to surpass human limits. He wasn't just building cars, he was crafting machines meant to perform flawlessly, no matter the conditions. And that's the secret behind Ferrari's enduring performance. They're engineered to thrive where others fail. A secret that was never meant to be found. Ferrari's obsession with going beyond the expected wasn't just about building better engines. It was a mindset, a hidden strategy that helped them stay ahead for generations. But what really left experts speechless was the discovery of records linking Ferrari's hidden facility to companies involved in aircraft and early space projects. These weren't just tests for road performance, there was direct coordination with teams working on cutting-edge aerospace technology. This means Ferrari's innovations may have quietly influenced machines built for the sky, and even beyond it. The so-called White Room wasn't just where engines were refined. It was a proving ground where the limits of fuel-powered machines were shattered far outside the boundaries of motorsports. It's this quiet pursuit of unreachable goals that explains how Ferrari has remained a symbol of excellence for more than 70 years. But that was only the beginning. The most jaw-dropping discovery came not from any test lab, but from a hidden space few ever imagined existed. During a renovation in 2023, workers stumbled upon a concealed entryway beneath Enzo Ferrari's preserved office. Behind an ordinary wall panel, they uncovered a secret chamber buried deep underground, an area never shown to the public and likely known only to a handful of insiders. What lay within this underground vault shook historians and engineers alike. This wasn't just a forgotten storage area. It held artifacts and records suggesting that Ferrari's role during a critical chapter of world history was far more complex than anyone had realized. Among the files and preserved prototypes were links to one of World War II's most sensitive and closely protected operations, something far removed from the world of car racing. What was buried beneath Ferrari's factory wasn't just a part of automotive history. It may have been a key piece of something much larger and far more dangerous: Ferrari's secret war. The secrets uncovered during the renovation of Ferrari's old facility didn't point to race cars or engineering diagrams. Instead, workers found war maps, coded messages, and files that told a completely different story, one of courage, danger, and silent rebellion. What they found wasn't about speed or championships. It was something far more personal. During World War II, while the factory appeared to support Nazi Germany and Mussolini's regime, something entirely different was happening behind the scenes. Enzo Ferrari had quietly assumed a second identity, operating under a shadow company name, Alto Avion. Outwardly, the factory produced goods for the Axis powers. But when night fell and inspectors left, the real work began. Hidden behind routine factory operations was a secret resistance effort. Ferrari's team was secretly fixing and building weapons for anti-fascist fighters. Documents from the hidden room showed how the schedule was split: normal work during the day, underground missions at night. Everything had to be timed perfectly. A single error could have cost them their lives. One of the most powerful parts of this discovery came from letters and first-hand notes written by workers. These were ordinary men and women who had risked everything, not for racing glory, but to fight against oppression. It turns out, Ferrari's reputation for unmatched precision wasn't born on the racetrack. It came from the chaos of war. The same skills that made Ferrari cars nearly untouchable in motorsport were sharpened during a time when every decision was a matter of life or death. Records reveal that Enzo Ferrari did far more than build cars. He played a daring role in helping those fighting against fascist rule. Using his factory as cover, he helped smuggle key political figures out of danger, coordinated with resistance groups across northern Italy, and secretly sent supplies and tools to support underground fighters. His facility wasn't just a place for making mechanical parts, it was a secret support center for a movement battling for freedom. The tight-lipped culture that came to define Ferrari's company wasn't about corporate mystery, it was born from the high-stakes world of wartime secrecy. Systems built to protect sensitive information, strict internal divisions, and unwavering employee loyalty all began as survival strategies. Historian David Manton later uncovered and confirmed these details through his extensive study of Ferrari's classified records. His book, Enzo Ferrari's Secret War, helped decode the hidden symbols and messages scattered throughout the wartime documents. These decoded files reveal detailed missions and partnerships with anti-fascist cells that painted Ferrari as more than just a businessman. He was a hidden force working to undermine fascist control. Among the most astonishing finds were handwritten notes between Ferrari and resistance leaders, composed in encrypted language that remained unsolved for over 7 decades. These exchanges showed a man who brought the same drive and precision to secret operations as he later would to race car engineering. Understanding this hidden chapter changes the story we've always told about Ferrari. His company's triumphs weren't only built on mechanical genius. They were shaped by a man trained in stealth, risk, and survival. Ferrari's later edge in racing, his unmatched strategies, closed-door innovation, and team loyalty were all rooted in wartime discipline. In the end, the factory in Maranello wasn't just a workshop, it was the heart of Enzo Ferrari's most personal mission. And perhaps his most important victory came not on a racetrack, but in the quiet, dangerous resistance that helped change the course of history. A pulse that echoes through generations. The recent discoveries buried deep within Ferrari's past may have stunned the world, but the real surprise lies in what they reveal about the present and the future. These weren't just forgotten wartime secrets. They were the roots of a philosophy that still drives the company today. What Enzo Ferrari set in motion all those years ago didn't end with him. It laid the groundwork for a forward-thinking vision that's still shaping some of the most advanced projects inside Ferrari's modern headquarters. Tucked away behind even tighter security than the historic archives are cutting-edge research wings where long-term innovation is quietly unfolding. Many of these developments won't see daylight for decades. While the public sees sleek road cars and the roar of F1 engines, that's just the surface. Behind the scenes, engineers are working on ideas that stretch far beyond anything currently on the road or even in concept studios. Ferrari is now investing in futuristic propulsion systems that go well beyond traditional fuel or electric options. The company collaborates with top universities and science labs around the globe, helping fund research into groundbreaking movement technologies like magnetic lift systems, plasma drives, and energy concepts that could redefine how people and machines travel in the future. What started as a wartime necessity, operating in secret, planning for the long game, and thinking ahead, has become a core part of Ferrari's DNA. Enzo's spirit isn't just part of history, it's alive in the very walls of Maranello, quietly driving a mission that's only just beginning. Not theory, it's already in motion. This isn't just talk or theory. Ferrari is actively developing these groundbreaking ideas with real teams, real funding, and entire departments devoted to pushing the limits of what's possible. The business model behind it is just as clever as the tech itself. Every time someone buys a Ferrari, a portion of that money goes straight into future research, supporting innovations that might not be revealed for another 20 or 30 years. It's like a self-powered engine for progress. Today's buyers are unknowingly investing in the next generation of technology that could reshape how we move altogether. And the kind of research happening behind closed doors? It's nothing short of astonishing. They're experimenting with next-gen materials that could make current carbon fiber look outdated. Their aerodynamic tests explore shapes and behaviors more common in spacecraft design than traditional cars. The energy storage solutions being worked on have the potential to not only reinvent vehicles, but also shake up entire energy-reliant industries. But perhaps the most impressive part is the people driving all this. The teams working on these futuristic projects aren't just car engineers. They come from aerospace, military tech, and high-level physics fields. These diverse minds work together on complex problems from new angles that standard car companies would never think to try. Even now, Ferrari operates under a strict system of privacy. Most engineers only see the piece of the project they're directly responsible for. Just like in Enzo's day, secrecy is key. The methods may have changed, but the mindset of quiet, focused innovation remains at the heart of everything Ferrari is building for the future. Ferrari has a unique way of staying ahead. They don't reveal everything they're capable of. Instead of showing off their full technical power, they hold back on purpose. The cars we see on the road or on the track are impressive, but they're not using the most advanced tools Ferrari has developed. In fact, the company already has technology that could push car performance to levels we haven't seen yet, but they choose to roll out those advances slowly, carefully, balancing innovation with market expectations and rules. People who work inside Ferrari today say they're dealing with systems and concepts that feel like they belong decades in the future. They talk about labs where vehicles are tested under extreme, almost otherworldly conditions. Some of the performance goals they're aiming for go far beyond what's possible with the materials and tools used in most of the car industry. What makes this even more surprising is that Ferrari isn't chasing trends or trying to catch up with rivals. They're quietly putting into place ideas that were prepared long ago, well before anyone even knew they'd be needed. This careful planning and forward-thinking mindset is exactly what Enzo Ferrari stood for. His vision was never limited to the rules of the moment, and that same spirit still drives the company today. What was discovered inside his old factory doesn't just reveal secret projects, it shows a deeper truth about a brand that never stopped dreaming bigger than everyone else. Ferrari is more than a luxury car maker. It offers a peek into what the future of mobility could look like. Many fans and buyers, without realizing it, have been helping to fund research that's far ahead of its time. Behind the iconic horse logo is a long-standing tradition of pushing boundaries far beyond normal car design. Enzo Ferrari's hidden experiments in aviation and the secret rooms beneath company grounds tell a different story, one of a brand that has quietly served as an advanced tech lab for over 70 years. Inside these hidden spaces are inventions that challenge what we think is possible today. Every Ferrari built carries the spirit of those bold, experimental ideas, many of which seem closer to science fiction than to anything currently on the road. Now, it all comes together. Ferrari's extreme level of secrecy was never just about competition. It was about guarding the future of movement itself. Who didn't just adore him, they felt entitled to him. Some crossed boundaries in terrifying ways, stalking his shows, waiting outside his hotel rooms, even sending messages that blurred the line between love and obsession. These moments pushed Matt into a constant state of unease, wondering if his next joke might spark a reaction he couldn't control. The spotlight that made him a star also made him a target, and he could feel it creeping under his skin. Worse yet, his own hunger for adventure led him to haunted places, chasing the thrill of fear, but those dark corners left a mark on him he couldn't shake. The ghosts he tried to laugh away seemed to follow him, both real and symbolic, reminding him of how fragile his own sanity had become. His inner circle worried about him, watching as Matt balanced on the knife's edge of performance and personal destruction. But Matt couldn't stop. He was addicted to the rush, to the applause, to proving that no fear could break him. Now, as more truths spill into the open, people are realizing the price he paid to keep them entertained. The fame, the fear, the twisted adoration, it was all part of a dangerous dance, and Matt was right in the middle of it, whether he liked it or not. And the story is just warming up. When the laughs fell silent, there came a moment in Matt Rife's climb to fame when even laughter couldn't drown out the storm building inside him. The roar of the crowd once felt like oxygen, but slowly it turned into a deafening reminder of how alone he truly was. Between shows, he struggled to sleep, haunted by anxiety and flashes of panic that gripped him without warning. The pressure to keep being funny, to keep performing no matter what, weighed on him like chains he could never break. Matt's closest friends noticed the cracks first, the way he stared off into space after a show, or the tremor in his voice whenever someone mentioned the fans who took things too far. But Matt refused to let anyone see him break. He believed vulnerability would shatter the brand he'd built with sweat and sacrifice. So he pushed forward, ignoring the exhaustion, ignoring the inner voice begging him to stop and breathe.
That's how I found out. I was like, what? That's how you would have broke that. Be sensitive. Remember I said you don't know what people are going through?
Instead, he wore a grin like armor and threw himself into more gigs, more haunted house explorations, more viral challenges. Deep down, though, he felt something unraveling. No number of likes or sold-out tickets could patch the hole growing inside him. And when the spotlight finally dimmed, he was left alone with every fear he had tried to bury. This chapter of Matt's life is where the truth begins to sting. That being everyone's source of laughter can come at a price that leaves a performer on the edge of breaking. And the next chapter? It will show just how close Matt came to losing everything. Chasing shadows. Fame can be a strange addiction, and Matt Rife felt its pull stronger than most. The roar of the audience became a drug, and every laugh felt like a shot of adrenaline, making him forget, at least for a moment, how scared he truly was. But when the stage lights went off, Matt found himself haunted in more ways than one. He had started filming ghost hunting adventures, chasing paranormal thrills to feed his audience's hunger for shocks. At first it was fun, a perfect mix of comedy and fear. But soon, the darkness inside those haunted houses felt far too familiar, mirroring the shadows in his own mind. There were nights when Matt couldn't tell if the fear was coming from outside or from deep within himself. Some experiences shook him so badly that he had to step outside and gasp for air, heart pounding, hands trembling, replaying voices in his head that no one else could hear. Those moments blurred the line between acting scared for the camera and actually feeling consumed by terror. His team worried about him, tried to pull him back, but Matt refused. The fear was real, but so was the high. And so he kept chasing these shadows, refusing to let them conquer him, all while ignoring how they were slowly tearing him apart. The secrets he carried felt heavier with each ghost story, each dark corner explored. And soon, those secrets would start clawing their way out, ready to change everything people thought they knew about him. Details about Matt Rife are spilling out. Matt Rife had always been prepared for hecklers and harsh critics. Those were part of the comedy world. But he wasn't ready for the darker side of fame that began creeping in. As his popularity exploded, so did the attention of people who saw him as more than a performer. People who blurred the lines between fan and stalker. Messages turned threatening, gifts crossed into obsession, and Matt soon realized that being adored by thousands came with a chilling price. He started traveling with extra security, scanning every unfamiliar face in the crowd, wondering if one day someone might cross a line he couldn't recover from. There were shows where he could feel eyes locked on him in a way that made his skin crawl, moments when laughter felt tainted by a lurking sense of danger. Matt tried to keep performing like nothing had changed, refusing to show fear, but inside, a war raged. Could he really keep this up forever, pretending the world was safe when he knew it wasn't? Each night, he weighed the risk against the rush of the stage, and every time, he chose to keep going. Because comedy was his escape, even if it meant ignoring the shadows closing in. Yet the truth was, the walls were getting thinner, and the secrets getting harder to hide. Matt was about to learn that sometimes fame doesn't just lift you up, it breaks you down, one terrifying moment at a time. And what came next would push him even closer to the edge. The ghosts within. While the world was fixated on Matt Rife's fearless stage persona, they never saw the battles he fought in the silence of his own mind. Every night, he carried ghosts with him, memories of fans who threatened him, fears that refused to stay buried, and wounds from betrayals he still couldn't understand. The haunted houses he explored for viral fame were nothing compared to the shadows living inside him. Long after the cameras cut, he lay awake, replaying every chilling moment, unable to separate real nightmares from the scripted ones. The lines had blurred so much that sometimes he truly believed something was following him. A darkness he couldn't shake off, no matter how many laughs he chased. Close friends tried to reach him, tried to pull him back to a safer, simpler life, but Matt had come too far to slow down. The applause was a powerful antidote to the terror, even if it was temporary. And so, he buried himself in more gigs, more appearances, convincing the world that he was fine while his spirit frayed around the edges. It was easier to be the fearless, funny man than to admit he was afraid of what waited in the quiet. But the cracks were spreading, and the secrets could only stay hidden so long. Matt would soon be forced to face his demons, no matter how deeply he had buried them. Because sometimes the scariest ghosts aren't found in haunted houses. They live inside you, waiting for the moment you finally break. Cracks in the spotlight. No matter how bright the spotlight shone on Matt Rife, it could never fully hide the cracks forming behind his polished smile. Fame had become a balancing act, each performance a tightrope walk between triumph and collapse. The more people cheered for him, the more he felt trapped by the image they expected him to uphold. He was the unbreakable, unstoppable comedian. But inside, Matt was quietly breaking. Each night he stepped on stage, he wondered if he could still pull it off, still convince them that nothing was wrong. Friends noticed his energy slipping, his laughter becoming a little too forced, his jokes tinged with something darker. The stress was carving lines in his face, stealing the spark that once made him unstoppable. And while audiences saw a man at the top of his game, Matt saw someone who was slowly losing himself. Those close to him urged him to rest, to breathe, to talk about the nightmares that stalked him, but Matt only tightened the mask. Admitting weakness, he feared, would mean losing everything he'd worked so hard to build. So he pushed on, night after night, until even he started to believe the lie that he was fine. But inside, he knew a reckoning was coming. You can only patch the cracks for so long before something breaks completely. And when that moment arrived, Matt would be forced to choose between the applause he craved and the peace he so desperately needed. The price of the applause. Matt Rife had always believed the cheers were worth the sacrifice. The spotlight, the adrenaline, the roar of 1,000 voices shouting his name. It felt like a drug he could never quit. But every high has a price, and Matt was paying it in ways the audience never saw. Night after night, he pushed past exhaustion, ignoring the warning signs that his body and mind were screaming at him. Sleepless nights, panic attacks, a constant knot of dread in his chest. These became the background noise of his life. Even as he made people laugh, Matt could feel parts of himself fading away, pieces he might never get back. Some fans saw the strain in his eyes, but he waved it off with another joke, another grin, determined to protect the myth of the unstoppable performer. Deep down, though, he wondered how long he could survive living two lives, the confident comedian and the broken man behind the curtain. He missed the peace he once had, before the cameras, before the fame, when laughter was pure and fear didn't chase him off stage. But there was no turning back now. The secrets were piling up, ready to explode, and Matt could sense that his carefully built world was about to shatter. Still, he kept performing, refusing to let anyone see him stumble. Because the moment he let down the audience he feared was the moment he'd lose himself for good. And that fear was more powerful than any ghost he'd ever faced. The unseen battles. Beneath Matt Rife's effortless stage presence lived a storm that few could imagine. The jokes, the applause, the viral videos, they were only a mask, a way to silence the chaos clawing at him from within. Off stage, Matt was fighting battles no one saw. Panic would grip him in the middle of the night, stealing his breath and convincing him the world was closing in. The memories of obsessive fans, the threats, the nights alone in haunted houses, all of it blurred together, creating a fear that lived just beneath his skin. He tried to drown it with work, filling every spare minute with shows and appearances, terrified of what might surface if he stood still for too long. Friends watched helplessly, seeing a man who looked unbreakable to the world but was fraying at every seam. Matt couldn't explain how deep the cracks ran or how close he was to giving up. He was terrified that if he let himself rest, even for a moment, everything he had built would collapse. So he pushed on, night after night, forcing the smile, delivering the laughs, refusing to reveal that he was falling apart inside. But secrets have a way of catching up to you, no matter how well you hide them. And as the lines between the stage and his nightmares blurred, Matt could sense the final unraveling coming. He had been fighting alone for too long, and soon he would have to face the truth that even the strongest masks can shatter under enough pressure. When fear becomes real, Matt Rife had always chased fear like a thrill seeker, using it to spice up his shows, his online content, his brand. Haunted houses, chilling fan encounters, dangerous jokes, all of it fed the legend of the fearless comedian. But somewhere along the line, the fear stopped being an act. It became real. Matt couldn't shake the sense that something was always lurking behind him, even when the cameras were off. The nightmares started bleeding into his waking hours, and the line between performance and panic blurred until he couldn't tell the difference. Friends would see him drift off mid-conversation, lost in memories he couldn't escape. He'd force a laugh and say he was fine, but the darkness in his eyes told another story. No stage lights could protect him from what haunted him now. Every night, he wondered if a stalker might be waiting for him, or if the next ghost hunt would push him past the breaking point. The more he tried to act brave, the more fragile he felt inside. Each day was a battle to keep breathing, to keep performing, to keep the secrets from devouring him. And the hardest part? Admitting to himself that he was terrified, truly, deeply terrified, of everything he had built coming crashing down. The applause felt colder, the crowds seemed more demanding, and Matt realized he was no longer running the show. Fear had taken over, and he was simply trying to survive it. The real question was, how long could he keep going before something finally gave way? The breaking point. Matt Rife had spent so long pretending to be bulletproof that he barely recognized himself anymore. The cheers, the spotlight, the roaring fans, they once filled him with fire, but now they felt like an avalanche threatening to bury him. Each performance demanded more of him than the last, and each night he felt pieces of himself slipping away. The nightmares grew worse, merging with the real fears that stalked him from city to city. Every face in the crowd looked like it might hide a threat. Every unfamiliar message felt like another line being crossed. And through it all, Matt held on to the illusion of control, convinced that if he just kept moving, kept joking, kept smiling, he could outrun the collapse he felt deep in his bones. But the human mind can only stretch so far before it snaps. One night, after a show that had drained him to his core, Matt found himself staring at his reflection, unable to recognize the man in the mirror. The grin was still there, but the spark was gone, replaced by eyes full of dread. It was in that moment he finally admitted what he had been denying for so long. He couldn't do this alone anymore. The secrets, the fear, the obsession with being perfect, they had all taken their toll. And as the walls around him cracked, Matt realized the only way to save himself was to tell the truth, no matter how ugly it sounded. Because if he didn't, he might not survive the next fall. Confessions in the dark. After years of hiding behind perfectly timed jokes and carefully rehearsed smiles, Matt Rife was finally forced to confront the truth. In the quiet moments when the cameras shut off and the crowds went home, he could no longer deny the weight crushing his chest. The secrets had grown too heavy, the nightmares too real, and the fear too consuming to silence with another laugh. One night, sitting alone in a dimly lit dressing room, Matt felt something break inside him. The act was over. He began to speak, letting the words spill out like poison draining from a wound. He confessed to his closest friends about the panic attacks that paralyzed him, about the haunted dreams that wouldn't let him sleep, about the constant terror that someone was waiting to hurt him. It was raw, ugly, and terrifying to finally say the words out loud. But it was also the first moment of real freedom he'd felt in years. As he opened up, Matt realized that sharing his story didn't make him weak. It made him human. Those who loved him listened without judgment, reminding him he was more than the broken pieces, more than the pressure, more than the public image he had fought to protect. And in that tiny, vulnerable space, Matt took the first step toward healing. It wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead would still be dark, but at last, he wasn't facing it alone. For the first time, he believed there might be a way out of the shadows. Rebuilding from ruin. Matt Rife's confession changed everything. The moment he allowed himself to be vulnerable, the fortress he had built around his pain finally began to crumble. But this time, in the best way possible. Friends and confidants rallied around him, proving that he didn't have to fight alone anymore. They reminded him that even the strongest performers have a right to step off the stage and heal. Slowly, Matt started to rebuild. He took time away from the constant touring, stepping back from the haunted hunts and the suffocating chase for viral perfection. It was terrifying at first, to feel the silence where applause had once been, but it also became the first breath of peace he'd had in years. Away from the relentless pressure, Matt began to reconnect with the part of himself that had loved comedy before fame turned it into a battlefield. Therapy, quiet nights, and honest conversations replaced the chaos. It wasn't easy. The nightmares still visited him, and the fear hadn't disappeared overnight. But he was learning to face them, not bury them. As Matt picked up the pieces, he discovered that his story was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning, now written with more honesty than ever. Audiences who truly cared for him would soon see a different Matt Rife, one stronger, braver, and no longer chained to the illusions he'd carried for so long. And that transformation would be more powerful than any joke he'd ever told. The courage to return. After months away from the stage, Matt Rife felt something he hadn't dared to feel in a long time: hope. The road back was slow and painful, marked by doubts and fears that still lingered in the corners of his mind. But this time, he was stronger, no longer chained to the lies he had once told himself. When he stepped onto a stage again, the lights seemed warmer, the crowd less like a threat and more like a family welcoming him home. The first laugh he earned felt electric, but different, not a shield to hide behind, but a genuine moment of connection. Matt had survived his darkest chapters, and now he was rewriting the ending. No more haunted shows that fed off his anxiety, no more letting obsessive fans dictate his every move. Instead, he promised himself to perform on his own terms, setting boundaries, protecting his peace. The audience responded with overwhelming support, sensing the authenticity in every word. For the first time, Matt shared pieces of his real story through comedy, transforming his struggles into raw, relatable humor. It wasn't about being perfect anymore. It was about being real. And that truth resonated more powerfully than any viral punchline. As he looked across the cheering faces, Matt realized he had finally taken back control of his life. The shadows might still be there, but they no longer ruled him. He was ready to keep moving forward, stronger and wiser, determined to never lose himself again. A new beginning. Matt Rife had walked through the fire, survived the darkest corners of fame, and emerged forever changed. His journey was no longer defined by haunted houses or viral controversies, but by the courage it took to reclaim his peace. Fans who once saw him as a fearless comedian now saw a human being with scars and stories far deeper than any punchline, and Matt was proud of that. The man who once hid behind jokes had learned that true strength meant showing the world exactly who you are, even when it's messy. With every performance, he now carried honesty like a badge, sharing the laughter, but also the lessons. The obsessive fans, the sleepless nights, the panic that nearly consumed him. He refused to let those shadows write his story. Instead, he turned them into a testament of resilience, proof that even the most broken moments can be rebuilt. Standing backstage before another show, Matt felt a quiet calm. The fear was still there, but it no longer owned him. He had faced the worst of himself and survived. Now, he was ready to use his voice not just to entertain, but to inspire anyone who had ever felt lost in their own darkness. The road ahead would still have challenges, but Matt finally believed in his own power to face them. And as he stepped back into the light, ready to tell his story on his own terms, he knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. Matt Rife's story is proof that even the loudest laughter can hide the deepest wounds, and no spotlight is ever bright enough to chase away every shadow. From haunted houses to haunted memories, he stood on the edge more times than anyone ever knew, yet refused to let fear define him. With every joke and every raw confession, he showed the world that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. Today, Matt stands not just as a comedian, but as a survivor who turned his pain into purpose, and who now wears his truth proudly. His journey reminds us all that no matter how broken we feel, there is a way forward if we dare to face the darkness head-on. As the curtain falls on these hidden chapters, one thing is certain: Matt Rife's story isn't over, and neither is his fight to stay real in a world that demands perfection. So stay tuned, because sometimes the greatest comeback stories begin only after the spotlight goes out.